2020 prelims paper of Union Public Service Commission. So in aspirants, there is a common explanation. UPSC means, okay, so unpredictable service commission. So it is truly unpredictable. UPSC generally is biased in this year towards agriculture and towards the environment. Every year it has some amount of biasness. Okay, so it can be seen if you analyze the earlier, previous year papers. You can find that there is a domination of current affairs in one exam. There is a domination of history in another exam. So it is never biased. It is always it is always biased. It is never unbiased. What is the meaning of unbiased? History, geography, polity, economy, current affairs, environment, everything should be represented equally. It doesn't happen here. Okay, if this is done, the rural people, the tribal people, the SCs, STs, everyone will be able to answer the questions. But this kind of question paper is very hard for those who are staying in the rural areas, because if you see the current affairs or the technology questions, science and technology questions, they were asked in so depth, okay, that you have to be doing some kind of research in that, right? So I, being science and technology faculty, even for me, some of the questions, were difficult. Why it is so? It is because he is trying to test the dimensions, okay, the depth of the knowledge of an aspirant. Okay, so whatever his intention, whatever UPSC's intention is, one thing is clear: the paper is becoming more and more dynamic. It is drifting away from the static portion. So you guys who are going to attempt the exam in the further years, like somebody will be attempting in 2021, others 22, 23, stay focused on the current affairs, go into depth of a topic. So first we'll start with geography, where we have a less number of questions. Not many questions were asked. So this is geography. I'll be explaining you superficially because some topics are not covered to D1, some are not covered to D2. Okay, but if you have any doubt, you can definitely interrupt me and you can ask me. I will definitely take up your doubt. So let us start the first question. Yeah. So the first question is talking with the reference to ocean mean temperature. Which of the following statements is correct? Right? Those who are done with the oceanography, focus here. I told you earlier that if this is the ocean, in the ocean we measure the temperature of the ocean usually considering the top layer of the water. For example, I can consider that this ocean is warm if I calculate the temperature of this top layer. Okay, so what is the diameter of the top layer which I'm going to consider for temperature? It is very few millimeters, right? So by considering that temperature, I can say it is warm. Warm means the water is hot. If water is hot, the air above will be hot, so it will be low pressure. Okay, for the first year's D1 you might be having little bit confusion, but don't worry. Okay, when we go into the topic, we'll definitely have clarity. For now, try to understand this. Warm water, hot water, so low pressure, right? Similarly, if the water is cold, so it will be having high pressure. This is what we have studied in static geography. Now this is a dynamic part of geography. Nobody would have ever thought that there would be a current affair question on geography, but this is one among them. So this ocean mean temperature was recently found out in the year 2018 by an institute from Pune called as Indian Institute of Okay, so meteorology, Indian Institute of Meteorology. This institute, sorry, Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology. This institute found out that if we consider the water temperature at a depth of 26-degree isotherm. What is the meaning of isotherm? Isotherm is the point where we have same temperature. Okay, so if we consider to that extent, for a simple understanding, water temperature should be considered to a greater depth. In which ocean? In Indian Ocean. If we do that, then we can easily analyze or easily predict the amount of monsoons that is going to hit the Indian mainland. Now, D2 and D3 tell me, when do we have the first landfall of monsoons, or you can say the onset of monsoons. Onset of monsoons. I am talking about the D2 students. We have discussed the onset of monsoons very recently. And when is the first date we have monsoons? Okay, we have whole year: January, February, March, April, May, June, right? July, August, and so on. August, September, October. So you guys are coming up with the answers. June 1st, Aisha is saying. Monica is saying June. Okay. Yeah, it is June 1st week. Exact date is not possible to find out because it is like a train timing. We have June. We have train arriving at 12 o'clock. It might arrive sometimes at 11:50. Sometimes it might arrive at 2 o'clock. When we ask the station master, he will tell you that is the ideal time. 12 o'clock is the ideal time. The train might arrive depending on the requirement of the driver. I mean the loco pilot. So if he is having some urgent work, it will be delayed. In the same way, monsoons usually arrive on the first week of June. So if monsoons are going to arrive on the first week of June, if you analyze the data of the previous months, you can easily find out what can be the intensity of monsoons. See the first one. OMT is measured up to a depth of 26-degree isotherm, correct? But it is not 120 meters. It is between 50 to 100 meters. Okay, this is the wrong statement, but other part is correct. Now, when we have one correct, one wrong, according to the end rule, it is a wrong statement. Okay, so first is wrong statement. OMT collected during January to March, and it is true. I told you the previous months of monsoons can be used in assessing whether the amount of rainfall in monsoons will be less or more than certain long-term mean. It is correct. Only 2 is correct here. Very tricky question. Nobody would have expected. You see, the Hindu stating on which date? 2018 September 1. Ocean mean temperature can better predict Indian monsoon. Okay, you have data here, so you can read this data once. So it is 59 meters. It is not 129 meters. So even geography faculties fail to answer this because it is not a static question. It is a dynamic. So you can see the data of 15-20 years collected, 80% success has been achieved in the ocean mean temperature, whereas 60% success in the sea surface temperature, SST. Okay, so you can see using OMT data collected during January to March 2018, we were able to predict the 80% probability. Pune Institute was able to predict the 80%. Second question, Siachen Glacier is situated in the, very simple question. Recently it was in news. I mean, Kashmir is always in news, right? You guys can never ignore Kashmir. So, scan Kashmir thoroughly. Either Pakistan is disturbing, China is disturbing, or we ourselves are disturbed. Internal disturbance in Kashmir. Okay. So it is not east of Aksai Chin. It is neither east of Leh, neither north of Gilgit. It is north of Nubra Valley. What is Nubra Valley? So you can see Aksai Chin, it is to the west of Aksai Chin. Gilgit, it is to the east of Gilgit, but it is not to the north of Gilgit. Then you see Leh. Leh is here, but it is to the north of Leh, right? What is remaining? Nubra Valley. Nubra Valley, Nubra is actually a river that is a tributary of Shyok. Now, second year guys will tell me where is, I mean, Shyok is a right bank tributary or left bank tributary of Indus. Which bank tributary? Where do we have Shyok in this image? You guys can mark it. I've told you about Shyok. I've explained you about Shyok. I did not explain you about Nubra Valley. That's okay, but at least you can, you know, eliminate the wrong options. That is not Aksai Chin, not Gilgit, not Leh. This is Siachen Glacier, the one with the red. Yes, in the image you can see Shyok River. You can see Indus. I want D2 students to mark Shyok and Indus. D2, sorry. So, Lokesh, Purna Sanjana, Sri Harsha, Aisha, Monica. Where is Shyok? It's RBT, right bank tributary. Yeah, it is a right bank tributary. You can see this is the Shyok River, and the tributary of Shyok is Nubra, which is actually flowing in this direction here. The red one is the Nubra. Now, Nubra River is present on the south of Siachen Glacier. So, Siachen can be called, you know, a north part of Nubra Valley. So, that is north of Nubra. Correct. D is the correct option. Right? Some map based questions have been asked both from the world as well as from the Indian geography. Consider the following statement. This is the third one. Jet streams occur in the northern hemisphere only. Just, you know, 1 week back we have discussed about jet streams. It doesn't occur only in the north, it occurs in the south also. Okay, we have four permanent jet streams, 2 in the north, 2 in the south. Okay, only some cyclones develop an eye. He is talking about the tropical cyclone. UPSC has become, you know, very lazy. He has forgot to mention it is tropical, but we have to analyze because eye can only be seen in tropical cyclone. The temperature inside the eye of a cyclone is nearly 10 degrees less than that of surroundings, which is actually wrong. Okay, so only some cyclones develop eye, correct, because most of the cyclones which are formed in the Bay of Bengal, they don't develop fully. They develop half and they disappear as the temperature decreases. They develop only, you know, in initial days, only very few of them, you know, are going to develop fully, which is going to hit the Indian mainland. So this is jet streams. Can you see? One is the subtropical jet stream, another is polar jet stream. 1, 2 in the north. Then we have subtropical jet stream in the south, polar jet stream in the south. So how many? 1, 2, 3, 4. Another image, jet streams I told you usually flow in a zigzag manner, which is called as Rossby waves. Rossby waves. Okay, so D1 guys, don't get confused. Simple guy, if I have to tell you in Telugu, there are కొన్ని winds ఉంటాయి ఇక్కడ నార్త్ లో. ఆ winds వెస్ట్ నుంచి ఈస్ట్ కి బ్లో అవుతూ ఉంటాయి. They are flowing at a very fast rate. Okay, UPSC is asking, they are only flowing in the north. No, they are also flowing in the south. Earth is a circular, it is not a triangular object where you can find only one side, you know, events. Then you can see this is tropical cyclone. You can see eye. In the eye, the temperature is actually warmer than the rest of the regions. It is not colder, it is warmer. So it is warm of, like with the 10 degrees, it is warmer than the rest of the places. So third statement is wrong. So answer for this is, just let us see. Temperature inside the eye of cyclone is nearly 10 degrees less. No, it is 10 degrees warm, 10 degrees more. Jet streams only in the northern hemisphere. I told you only words you can eliminate. If you find only, then you can say it is wrong. But not all onlys are wrong. Don't take it like that. So this is correct. Only 2 is correct. C. Some students might say, sir, if you say only is wrong, then all the options should be wrong, right? No, it's only exception. C is correct here. Okay. One more point I want to add here is, I am going to give you key which I have researched and which I have studied, and I have some reference for that. But UPSC is always, as we know, is unpredictable, so it can take another stand. That is, it can change its answer. Now, in which cases it can change its answer, that also I will tell you. Don't worry. Okay. But confirm, pakka answer is whatever I'm telling you. If there is some change, I will definitely inform you. So you guys can mark, star there. That is prone to change. The crop is subtropical in nature. Hard frost is injurious to it. It requires at least 210 frost-free days. Okay. See, this is direct question from NCERT. Okay. If some of our parents or our relatives are farmers, they will clearly tell us that. Okay, one of my relative is a farmer, so he tells me he suffered a lot when there was rainfall during the harvesting season of cotton. Why? Because cotton is basically a crop that is demanding 210 frost-free days. That is, it should be sunny, it should be good amount of sunlight, so that the cotton bulbs can be picked up easily. If you pour water in it, it will be something like you are wetting your own clothes. That is, you cannot pick them out. So answer is cotton here. Very simple, direct question. This is the easiest question in the UPSC in the geography. Cotton is the answer. Why jute is not the answer? Some students might raise questions. Sugarcane, tea, why they are not the answer? Of course, other statements might be true for some of the crops, but you see how jute is grown. So this is sugarcane. Can you see the amount of greenery in the sugarcane? Now, with that greenery, can you expect that it requires frost-free days? No. Just imagine in your mind. Don't think about anything. I'm telling you the easiest way to answer. Imagine in your mind the greenest crop. Sugarcane is the greenest. You cannot say it is having less water or it requires less water. Then this is the jute. Jute also is, grown inside the water. It is grown in, Hooghly Delta of River Ganga in West Bengal, Bihar, swampy regions, correct. Moreover, when you cut the plants, you have to soak these plants in the water itself. Now it requires water. You cannot say frost-free days. This is tea. Can you see some amount of moisture here in the air? Okay, foggy conditions. Now tea requires such kind of cool climate. If you have frost-free days, then it will dry up. Right? Just imagine the crops in your mind. You will be able to answer the question. Even if you don't know the answer, you will be arriving at some conclusion. Next one is, consider the following pairs: river and flows into which sea. This is a question directly from world map. So for D1 students, I have made you practice some map questions, like we have practiced mountains, right? We have practiced something like fold mountains, block mountains, but we did not practice the rivers. We would have practiced the rivers in the further sessions. Where is Mekong? Mekong is basically flowing across the Southeast Asia, from starting from Himalayan regions, that is Tibetan regions, all the way from Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, and finally merging into Pacific Ocean, that is South China Sea, not into Andaman. Thames, this is not Thames, this is Thames. Irish Sea is also wrong. Thames is merging into Thames, the Ganga of the Britain, is merging into the North Sea. Volga is merging into Caspian, correct. Zambezi is merging into Indian Ocean, correct. Zambezi is in Africa, Volga is in Europe. Okay, so only 3 and 4 are correct. Right, this is also a tricky question, because even if you eliminate one option, you will still have the other things lying in front of you. Zambezi, can you see here? This is Zambezi, merging into which ocean? Indian Ocean. Mekong, where is it merging? Into Pacific Ocean. Actually, this part is called as South China Sea, where we have domination of China. Okay, it is acting like a dictator in the South China Sea, occupying all the islands, and nobody is able to say anything. So that's why Indians are focusing on the maritime to counter the Chinese activities. What is the next one? Volga. Volga is here, flowing across the Europe and finally merging into Caspian Sea. We will discuss about these water bodies, and we will discuss what rivers are merging into this water bodies in the oceanography. For D1 students, I'm telling. In the Britain, we have Thames. It is not visible here clearly. So I put up another image. You guys can see. This is Zambezi meeting into Indian Ocean. Mekong, you can see here, into South China Sea. Volga. Next time when you prepare for civil services, remember all the names of the rivers and in which oceans they are actually having their mouth. This is the mouth. Next time he will ask you, the mouth of Zambezi is in Indian Ocean. That is true. So this is the last question of geography. Very vague question. Consider the following minerals: bentonite, chromite, kyanite, sillimanite. Which of the following are officially designated as major minerals? You see here, major minerals or minor minerals, what is the difference between them? Actually, we have an act called as Mines and Minerals Development and Regulation Act 1957. Okay, so MMDR Act 1957. According to this act, we have major and minor minerals. Minor minerals can be taken care by states. Major minerals can be taken care by central. In major category, we have iron ore, bauxite, copper, manganese. Okay, so all these are major minerals. Now you see here, there is an interesting thing here. Bauxite is a major mineral. What is a what do we derive from bauxite? Anyone? What do we derive from bauxite? Aluminum, correct. Okay. Now this is an indirect question. Aluminum is derived from bauxite, correct. So kyanite and sillimanite are the elements which are the minerals which help you giving aluminum. So it is aluminum silicate. Okay, so kyanite and sillimanite. But 3 and 4 are not given in the options. So we have to go with the 4 option. Chromite, you get chromium. Chromium is used in stainless steel. Stainless steel. You might have seen a scale which you might have used in the school, where it is, the spoons which you use, everything is stainless steel. Chromium is used. Bentonite is a kind of mineral which is used to bind the 2 objects. For example, you have one object, another object. If you want to join them, you can use bentonite. Okay. What about kyanite and sillimanite? Kyanite and sillimanite are used in ceramics. Ceramics, you have aluminum, you can derive it out. But you see, 3 and 4 is not given in the options. So possibly you can choose 4 only. Right? So this is what is my analysis. But UPSC can take a different stand. For that, we have to wait and see what is UPSC going to do. For now, most of the aspirants are sticking with the B, that is 4. Even geography faculties, they are sticking with the B option. Fourth one is B. Yeah? Rakesh is saying fourth one is B. Let us see. Fourth one is cotton. Frost-free days. That's enough to recognize the cotton. Yeah, only 6 questions. That's what I'm telling. UPSC is very biased. Actually, there is a website called as Civils Daily. They have raised a forum. What UPSC wants. This is the form they have raised. We don't know what you see. Generally, in earlier days, it was analyzed that UPSC is the, the bulwark, it is the protector of the diversity of India. For example, let us say there is no UPSC. Who is going to ask the questions on nationalism? Who is going to talk about nationalism? When we were in school, are we going to study about nationalism? No, we were just mugging up the questions in nationalism. We were mugging up the things about Gandhi, Nehru, and all of these people. We used to present them in exam. After mugging them up, no understanding. If UPSC is not there, there is no diversity in India. India would not be the same. So whatever question is asked in the UPSC, it has some link to the diversity of India. It wants to show the students, the aspirants, that this is the diversity of India. Okay, this is the importance of India. Everywhere it is stressing. So even if secularism, socialism, democratism, everything is gone, UPSC will still, we can see all those things still in UPSC.